got your magazine. It's triangular shaped. The front is the narrower section. Your follower, cleaned up and everything. I mean, it's very, very self-explanatory. Just follow the shapes. Now, with this magazine spring, it's pretty much identical, top to bottom, from what I can tell. Yeah, it looks identical. So I'm going to call one front, one in the back, and what we'll do is we're going to put the elevated portion to the front. Now you got these two panels. This one is the one that goes in first, with the convex part protruding down. Move you guys back a little bit. Press that down. Again, concave section goes towards the magazine. Maybe you can see there. Once you have that done, you're going to put the single tang, the front section, in first. Get it in there. Just lost a breaker. Again, having problems with my warmer. Alright, now that I've got that down, I'm just going to take a hammer and tap this tang right there towards the back. And you're wanting those two rear tangs to protrude through there. Now that part is done. Sorry that I lost the light, but I can't stop here. We just want to take that tang and we want it to just be down where it can't, or it won't allow that to come loose. So it's like a monkey screw in a football. You want to make sure to go and just tap your rear as well, just to make sure that everything's in there good. Make sure that that section is protruding just a little bit. It actually won't protrude, but you want it to be in the hole properly. Just make sure that it's seated on all sides. I'm going to take this punch and bend my tangs in, and it's in good shape. If you want to make sure that this is seated in, take you a punch that'll fit. Don't push it in very far. You just barely push it in a little bit. And your magazine is back together. As soon as you make sure that your follower works, magazines back together. Alright, we're going to put our buffer and guide rods back together here. This is the back of the bolt or breech. This is the way it's going to fit on there. The rubber part is going to go towards the back of the gun. Go like that. Now, a lot of times you can look here and see the pattern of where that breech was, like you can on this one. You got two different size guide rods. You got a one that's a small diameter and short, and a larger diameter and long. You can look at this. The longer, large diameter one goes at the top. And what I'll do, get a little frog lube. Just give it a little lube, and they push through from this side. Same thing with the smaller one. You don't have to lube it, but it's a good idea to go ahead. Pull them through to where they bottom there. And then they will, that is how they go in there. Like that right there. Of course, you've got springs in there and everything, but that's how it goes. I'm going to mount this Magpul rail section right up here. What I did was I took my Dicom layout fluid, painted that on there, and then I don't know if you can see my center line. Can you see the center line that's scribed right down there? That center line, how you get that is measure the width here with your dial calipers, and once you have measured the width, then you divide that by 2. So basically what I had here was I had .625. 0.625. Now you divide that by 2 and it gives you 0.3125. So to get 0.3125, we're going to go down to our 3. 0.312, there's 312, or just a little under. And the 5 would be halfway in between the 2 and the 3 tick mark, right there. That's close enough. And I'm going to tighten our lock down. Now once you have done that, then you can take your caliper and you hook one side on your edge and you just drag the other tip of your caliper across there, and it will scratch off that Dicom and make a line, a very precise line. You don't have to dig in, you don't have to gouge, because that Dicom will come off very easily. That's what it's for. Then what I've done, I've got 2 marks here that are put in that are actually the center lines of my, see if I can get to focus here. Sorry about the, there we go. Got 2 lines there that are set up. They're the center lines of my holes. And for that, what I did was just pretty much held it over there and eyeballed the center line. Take a scribe and just reach down there and scratch you 2 lines. I also took the mill and balled out and dished out this right here, and then I cleaned it up with an X-Acto knife and a Dremel, and that'll give it a good contour for that. And so that's how we're going to mount it. So now I'm going to get my tap for this Magpul hardware. I'll drill and tap this and set it up for this. Now, the other thing that I need to do is I need to measure my thickness here. the thickness of this plate here for the rear sight and my receiver, I can measure right here, and I'm getting 0.260, something like that. When I take my piece of hardware and I push it through the magpul rail section, and then I use the tail of my caliper. That's what that area right there is for. I use the tail of that to measure. I'm clearly over. So what I'm going to have to do is I'll go ahead and I'll drill and tap the receiver and everything, and then after I have that in there, I'll look and see how much, since I've got this open tube area to deal with on this one, it's going to be real easy to work with. So I can actually worry about trimming after I've got it all installed. And that'll help with getting the threads and everything right. Then I'll go in here and I'll just trim these screws back after I have everything ready to go. We're going to take this auto scribe here. Spring-loaded scribe. Make sure you're lined up on your X and pop a hole. Look and see if your hole cheated to one side or the other of the line. Take that in consideration when you make your next hole. I think we'll be just fine on this one. Now that one ended up moving off the center line just a hair. So I'm going to angle it and pop another one, and we'll move that indentation over some. Got a drill there anyways. You just keep popping at a little bit of an angle until you have your indentation where it straddles your line. I don't know if you guys will be able to see this or not. Yeah, you can a little bit. So now we'll go to the drill press. Alright, let's drill a couple of holes in a Tec9. I'm going to get a little lube on it. And I got this drill speed way too high. I'm just going to drill slow with it. I'm a little lazy right now. I don't want to have to take the time to change my belts. That's why that's why it's running so fast. If you guys just saw it go to grab my brush there, if you're ever doing something like this and the piece of equipment grabs your brush or whatever it is, let it go. Let it have it. Let it eat it. It's alright. You don't have to have it. It's better than losing fingers and anything else. So, now we'll tap it. Give it a spin, make sure that it's lined up and nice and straight. Lube up our tap some. And since this is not the most highly accurate of setups here, I'm just going to readjust here as we go. I'm not taking too much time with this because this is inherently going to be an inaccurate setup, and doesn't mean that I'm half-assing this. It's just that with what we've got going on here, any small imperfections in setting this up initially, they'll be able to be more than compensated for with adjustment of the sight and everything. I mean, Magpul makes it, but it's still a plastic rail, which, I mean, you can only expect a plastic rail to be so accurate. And hell, it's a Tec9. The chances of you being able to shoot good groups with it aren't that high anyways. There we go. I think we're in good shape on those threads. And saying that I half-assed something is kind of like saying that Oprah's only overweight. You know, I mean, whenever I half-ass stuff, most of the time it's better than most people's best job. I'm not bragging. It has nothing to do with my ability. It's taking your time and trying to do the job right. Research it. Do the best you can. Anybody's capable of doing the same thing, and I am not special. There's a lot of people out there that see my rudimentary tools and methods and probably cringe. The other thing is, keep in mind, a lot of the things that I do that you guys see on video, I'm doing the way I'm doing it because I want to show someone without very many shop tools how they can do something like this. So, you know, it's just one of those things to where got to take some of the things that you see on my channel with a grain of salt if you're a professional machinist. Because you may not agree with it 100%. But that's alright. The channel's really not for you guys. Not to say I don't want you watching. Thank you so much. But it's really for the guy that likes to work on his stuff, or thinks he might want to work on his stuff, but he doesn't know how to. He's afraid to take the plunge, or doesn't really have the tools, but maybe has a little bit of stuff, or maybe he just doesn't think he has the tools. I like showing people they can do what they can do with what they've got. And the reason I'm using the drill press to tap with is because that way I have my threads put in at a completely perfect perpendicular angle, right in line with the way the hole was drilled. Works really, really well. Alright. And there we go. Now we'll go and clean this up and mount it. This is a Lyman deburring tool for reloading, but you can use any number of things. You don't want something with that'll get too far down into those threads. You don't want something that's too pointed. You want something with a pretty flat angle. And you know, different drill bit. There's all kinds of possibilities. But what you want to do is just chamfer that edge there. You might have to take the tap back in it, clean it up again, but that way you get rid of your burrs. The thing I had to do was the inside of the holes. I deburred them with a Dremel and a drum sander attachment. And you see right in front of that hole there, that's actually the remnant of the spot weld. And it was burred up and could have definitely been catching the carrier. And back here, the same thing. So you can still see a little bit of the die come on there. See my line, my center line. But now, just hold it up here and check and see. Looks like we're in good shape. Kind of looks off from this angle, but it's not. So there we go, and then we'll install it. You look right in here, and this is, you can see the screws down there protruding. They are, what I've got to do now is get this. I got it on manual focus here, so bear with me. looked at it here. Alright, now I've actually got this fixtured up here, and what I'll do is I'm going to take my Dicam and I'm going to go in there and put a little bit of that on the tips of those screws as they protrude. Now, the Dicam would be ideal, but the only thing that might cause me a problem with the Dicam is the fact that it is very, very fluid. It's very thin, and there's a possibility that it could wick down into the threads, which won't give me a mark. I need a mark. If they wick down in the threads, I won't be able to tell where that line is. So I'm going to try the Dicam out. If it doesn't work, I'm just going to have to use a regular paint marker. But I figured I'd try the Dicam because it will work better unless it wicks into the threads. So what I'll do on that, I'll just do it right now while we're talking. I want to make sure, especially using the Dicam, that I brush off any excess off of this brush. And nope, can't reach it there. Now with the Dicam, the reason I say that it would work better is because it's going to coat a little better down into the threads, because some of that on the tips of the threads is going to be removed as I pull the screws out. You know, and ideally, I could just take the Dremel inside of there. But the problem with that is that then, you know, that's a last-ditch effort, because then you are going to be grinding a little bit more on the inside, and in order to get them far enough down, you're going to actually have to take material out of your receiver tube. I'd rather not do that. If I have to, that's fine, and maybe just to, you know, touch up or something. But if I can just go ahead and cut them, you know, anytime you have a rotary tool inside of something like that, you run the risk of it catching and just, you know, marring things. There's threads here that you could mar up. You know, it's okay to do it, but you just want to limit the exposure time. While that Dicam is drying, I'll show you what I'm using here for my fixturing. And this is just a little bitty vise that allows you, it's suction base, and it allows you to turn the vise up all different, you know, you can move it in all different kinds of directions. And what I've done is, like what you saw earlier, I took that bottom teardown lug that is on the receiver. I put it through the center hole of this block here, and then I'm actually clamping the block with the vise. Vise head's turned sideways. Just another little way you can, you know, grab a hold of things. You don't always have to, you know, if you've got to clamp something, especially a gun, a lot of times you can clamp onto a fixture or something instead of having to clamp directly onto the gun. I mean, it'll pull right off, but for what I'm doing, it's plenty strong. So let's see here. You can see how easy it moves. All I need to do is just hold it up there. My suction cup has come loose. That's what's moving. There we go. And I mean, the suction cup on that vise, it's not like some damn secret agent, you know, climb on a glass building suction cups, any crazy crap like that. But they do their job. Let's see. Well, I definitely see some Dicam, but I can't tell where it was. Well, I'll tell you what we're going to do. Maybe under better light there I could see. We'll do another method here. This is just going to be the old eyeball method. I know that this receiver and rear sight are the same thickness, I mean, within a few thousandths, from the front hole to the back hole. So I'll take this rear one and run it in, and then what I'll do is I can count the number of threads that are protruding, and I'll cut that many threads off of this screw, and then I'll test fit. And once I get this one where I want it, then I'll remove this one and make it match. See if I can get this to focus in on here now. You see right here in the front, that's the one that we haven't cut, and then back here is the one that I have cut. And you see it still protrudes just a little bit. So I'll take it down just another thread and a half, something like that, and it'll be ready to go. And here are the 2 screws after I've cut them. Ran them through a tap and a brush, deburred them. We'll re-blue those. And now we'll go ahead and try it out here. See if they fit up. And go from there. Once this is done and we have these to the proper length, then I'll go ahead, re-blue, throw a little K-Phos on them so they can't corrode, and then I'll check my center line on my Magpul, the polymer rail there. Make sure that my machining and everything on it is good to where it's getting it centered, and then I'll install them with Loctite. And it will be ready to have a sight mounted on it. And then after that, we're going to put this Tec9 back together, and we'll check it for functionality, make sure that it's not burst firing, make sure that it's feeding properly, which I do not expect it to feed properly. They're notorious about not feeding properly, and that's actually why it's here. So hopefully, well, like I say, maybe the cleaning will have solved it. I doubt it. So, more fun for me. Yay! So now, after installing that and cutting those, let's see. Are we protruding? Let me see. We are good on both of them. Gonna be kind of hard to get the camera to focus there. You can see in the purple area there, there we go. There's a recess and a recess. That is the bottom of the screw that you see down there. So we're in good shape. Good shape. So I could have actually stood to not take quite as much off, but that's fine. There's plenty of screw in there because plenty of screw. Ha! Yeah, I said it. Well, anyways, the thickness of this plate and the receiver, there's plenty of threads in there. If it was just the receiver only, and I had that recess in my hardware, where they were, you know, there was that much that was not protruding. I would want it flush, is what I'm trying to say. If I was just threading into the receiver only, I would need the bottom of these screws to be flush with the inside of the receiver, so I could ensure that I had maximum amount of thread holding. Because as it is right now, that hardware is not, it's about halfway through the receiver, and that wouldn't be acceptable if I didn't have this plate up here. Alright, got 2 products we're getting ready to use here. Formula 4440, this is Instant Gun Blue, and the KGK Foss. Both of them really good products. Formula 4440, we're going to use it to touch up the bluing on this receiver. Actually, this receiver is parked. It's been parkerized, but we're not going to repark it. We're just going to touch up the areas that are bright and shiny. And this stuff works quick and efficiently. It's not really the best thing for refinishing an entire receiver with, but works well for touch-up type stuff. Just like what I'm doing here. I know it's not going to match perfectly, but an off-color black matches a black. Two different blacks match better than a shiny scratch in either one of the blacks. I hope that made sense. I guess it's a black thing. Y'all wouldn't understand it's a black thing. Wait. I guess I don't understand either. That was not a racial comment. Don't lynch me. Oh, sorry. Poor choice of words. Just messing with y'all. If we haven't come to the point in our lives to where someone can make a stereotypical joke and not offend 100 people, that says a lot for our society. I love stereotypical humor. I think it's the greatest kind. If we take a second to reflect on ourselves and what that humor's saying to us, we'll see. It's just funny stuff, man. It kills me.